Hi, Nicole. Welcome to Nurture Hub's Member in the Spotlight series. I'm really excited to have you on today. And for everyone listening, everyone watching, this is Nicole Moore. Nicole is a facilitator for Birth into Being, and she was also a filmmaker, and she's also a mother of two. And I believe, Nicole, you've also had beautiful water birth and lotus birth. So for yourself, you've really kind of experienced birth, I believe, as it's meant to be. That's my personal opinion. But can I just welcome you? Thank you so much also for being a member of Nurture Hub. It's really great to see, again, such an array of different practitioners and services. And my whole reason for doing this interview is to really help to educate others on what's available to them. So if I can hand it over to you, how did you actually fall into this line of work?
Thanks, Shari. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for creating the Nurture Hub and being the the conduit for women meeting and birth professionals gathering, and it's a wonderful role that you're filling for all of us. Thank you. How did I fall into this work? Well, I did have amazing births. I was very, very blessed, and I count my blessings for that experience. But those experiences, I'm a mother of two, every day. And I feel like those experiences have gifted me with so much and left me with a real passion for communicating about the opportunities that birth offers. I had really expansive and heart-opening, incredible, consciousness expanding experiences, very strong spiritual experiences, both myself and my partner and some of the others that were helping us around that time.
Beautiful.
And I felt like that was a gift that I wanted to share with the world. I wanted to, as a filmmaker, it didn't take me long after the birth to start kind of gestating my own ideas around how to communicate what an incredible healing and, expanding opportunity birth offers. What gems there are for us in terms of our own spiritual growth and understanding. Which of course I then went on to discover, we very much need as mothers to be able to, kind of integrate and align our intentions for our children and to understand, what our place is in teaching them about the world. And, anyway, I found it incredibly informative, and I wanted to make a film. So I started watching every single birth film that was out there, looking to see whether or not the spiritual realms had been touched on in films about birth. I came across Birth as We Know It, which is the film of Elena Tinetti-Vladimirova, the founder of the Birth into Being method. And her film blew me away, made me feel like I didn't need to make a film after all. Which I still think I do, and I'm still gestating, something like 14 years later. I'm still gestating that film, but Birth as We Know It brought me into contact with Elena, and I hosted her here in Australia for a workshop in 2009, and life hasn't been the same since.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah, and I totally relate also with what you said, how your own birth was a real conscious kind of spiritual awakening. And even for me personally, with my own birth story, birth has totally changed my life, the birth of my children. And it really is a time that can deeply impact a woman. And so for me, as with you want it to be the most positive, beautiful, empowering experience for each woman. And I totally believe that it does come down to also the education and understanding the mind-body connection. And that is a lot about with the work that you do, isn't it? It's understanding that mind the limbic imprint. Is that correct? You work a lot with a limbic imprint, and I never knew anything about this until recently when I actually attended one of your workshops in Sydney, which I was very, very blessed to attend. And for me, it was even an eye-opening experience for how I was born personally. It really kind of brought me back to how it possibly affected me during my life. And so could you maybe explain for the listeners and people watching, what do you mean by you help women or couples like recode their limbic imprint?
So the way we are born has a significant impact on how we live our lives. The limbic imprint is the imprint that is left on the part of the brain, the limbic system, that governs our emotions and our ways of interacting with the world. Our perceptions of safety, our ability to trust, our ability to love, and all of that is develops at the same time as the nervous system is developing when you are in utero.
Wow.
So some people even take it right back to preconception. What is happening, using the science of epigenetics, which is how the environment influences our genetics. What is it that's happening for the mother and the father in that preconception time? What is the state of equilibrium or not in their body prior to conception?
Wow.
Then there's the conception itself. And there's, a very wide spectrum of possibilities there, from, babies that are conceived in love and bliss and deep connection and are very much wanted and are being called in, all the way through to babies who are conceived in unfortunate circumstances, in violence, etc. So, there's a huge scope for how conception actually occurs and the energies behind it. And then there's gestation. And, without putting, extra pressure onto mamas, that time of gestation and what's happening for the mother deeply impacts the formation of the neural pathways in the baby's developing brain. It really affects the baby's nervous system. And, my job, as well as, working individually with couples and people, because it's not just about birth preparation, but it's also a role of educating about the importance of that prenatal period, and not just educating the mamas so they can, whip themselves over how stressed out they were in pregnancy, but to actually educate, all of us as a culture around the importance of that prenatal period, that we actually support mothers to be calm, relaxed. It's a big story.
And I think, sorry to cut you off, I think in this society that we're in now, because birth has become so medicalized, that there is so much pressure on a woman to, make, just from society in itself, hearing stories from other women, or having that pressure from their medical care provider that if they haven't had this baby, or if they get gestational diabetes, if they come down with this condition, then what if, that I find can really make a woman, stress a woman out with all the what ifs, that they may not even be showing signs of gestational diabetes or of preeclampsia, but the pressure that, we're always checking on this, we're always doing these tests, this test. I really find that it creates anxiety in women, and therefore also that they, I don't like kind of saying this, but possibly hand themselves over to someone else to, birth their baby, rather than really coming within themselves and trusting that gut instinct, and that, we as mothers, we have that intuition with our bodies and with our babies, but I feel like we have lost that in some sense. That's my opinion. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And the big question, and the area where my work kind of, meets that is, okay, so we know that a mama will do well to trust her body. What if she never has before? What if everything in her sphere is telling her that she shouldn't? Like I said, all this extra testing and all these fears that are put on through the system, depending on what kind of care provider she's chosen. You know, and quite possibly her entire life up until that point not foster trust and belief in her body. So the big question is, well, okay, she's pregnant, she knows she needs to trust her body. How can she generate and embody that trust in the short period of time that she has to prepare for birth? And that's where my work comes in, is that, you know, we do look at our own entry to life. So as you said, you know, in the workshop that you did with me, we were looking, it was a wonderful workshop that I really enjoyed as well, with all the hypnobirth practitioners that had gathered for the annual conference in Sydney. So looking at, you know, how did workshop participants' births influence their lives? How has their birth influenced their, you know, home frequency, if you like?
Right.
The basic settings of their mind, that the default settings that they come to, especially under stress or any kind of duress. And we all have, you know, habitual patterns and ways of seeing the world that we may be working with, but then as soon as we start to, you know, start a new job, move house, have a relationship drama, have some sort of friend drama that can come up and really wound us, and then we see that we go back to these default settings of the world is not a safe place, I can't trust myself, I am unlovable, I need to play small to be safe. You know, there's many common themes that emerge for women when they're under any kind of stress, and those those patterns or home frequencies that we really aspire to move beyond, and yet they sit there. So the work that I do goes right back to a woman's own entry to life, or a man's entry to life, and kind of creates a really fun, juicy, amazing, embodied experience for the nervous system to kind of attach itself to. And we create a parallel experience for the nervous system. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't always get to work with people in a really ongoing sense, but the idea is to cultivate those new imprints, to continue to work with them, to continue, you know, in the quiet moments, to go back to that experience of being held in love and bliss as you have just entered the world. And it is a powerful experience.
Definitely.
And it is one that can have a lasting impact on a person. And for women going into birth, it's an amazing form of birth preparation, because it's not of the mind, it's not anatomical, it's not about, you know, limbering up the body or doing yoga or anything like that. It's really about going deep into your soul.
Wow.
And what are the beliefs that are sitting there that may get in the way of you being able?
Yeah. I personally never really thought about my own.
I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally never really thought about how my own birth could have impacted me, because I wasn't educated. I didn't know that, you know, what the limbic imprint was. And for me personally, I was a cesarean baby, and I grew up even hearing from my mother, by no fault of her own, you know, that if she was to birth me naturally, we both would have died. And even as a child, kind of being told that, it did put a massive fear of birth into me. And I don't know whether subconsciously, consciously, I knew I didn't want that for myself and for my births. And I found personally that my own births were even really healing, maybe for me, in how I was told, and even, you know, I I don't remember my experience of my birth. I don't know if I want to either, but growing up with, you know, with that, being told that was really harsh, and that my mum joked that she didn't even know that I was hers because she was totally knocked out. So I know that we didn't have that immediate skin to skin. My father apparently passed out, and so this is kind of what I've been told about my own birth. So for me personally, the birth of my son was beautiful, and I did it. But the birth of my daughter, I had the home birth, and I just really, I allowed myself to just feel every sensation and really allow myself to just come into my own. And I felt that power, and I felt that confidence as well, that I knew I could do this, and I did. And it really was such a healing experience for me. And I didn't maybe realize how healing it was until I actually attended your workshop, and we really kind of talked about the effects of our own births. And then when you took us through kind of that massive visualization of rebirthing us, and how we would like to be rebirthed, it was just beautiful. So I want to thank you for that. It kind of really made me understand, and even for me now as a hypnobirthing practitioner as well, it's allowed me to understand so that I can maybe teach just that little bit. Of course, I always say to them, you need to have a look at Nicole's website, look into Birth into Being if you're interested, you know, to learn more. But I really feel too that as a hypnobirthing practitioner and working with couples, that it really helped me on that level of understanding. So is it something too that you definitely, you know, you can recommend to other practitioners or Nurture Hub members, that if they're interested, that they could, you know, attend a workshop with you? Do you do workshops just for practitioners?
I generally tend to have practitioners come into groups, mixed groups.
Okay.
As a mama, I don't do enough workshops to really specifically, you know, apart from that hypnobirth one.
Okay.
Because, you know, I'm doing, you know, 6-7 workshops a year, if that. And yeah, they tend to be very mixed groups. And it's amazing that they are mixed groups, because it's wonderful for birth practitioners to see the impact that this work has on a pregnant couple, for example.
Right. So you don't have to be pregnant to attend your normal workshop?
You don't have to be pregnant at all to do the workshop. Okay. And in response to what you just shared, I would say that, you know, you said you don't remember your birth, but actually I'd like to just correct that a little bit and say that you don't cognitively remember your birth. Mm-hmm. Your neocortex doesn't remember your birth, but your limbic system does.
Right.
And that's how the imprint works. That's how these kind of home frequencies are created, and they just set up patterns that will impact all sorts of areas of your life, from your ability to be in a loving relationship, to stay in a loving relationship, to have the the incredible perseverance and persistence that it takes to continue to relate through all the tough things that can happen in a long-term relationship, to continue to give your love to your children through all of the challenges, and to stand up for yourself in this world when you need to be able to muster up the strength and the ovaries that it takes to go out and be in business, to sort of bust through all of those kind of, negative core beliefs that get in the way of us doing what we feel like we came here to do. So there's lots of different people that this work is brilliant for, lots of different parts of life that you can, pinpoint it to. And for birth practitioners, I think it's amazing for them to really explore and uncover their own relationship to birth, not just in service to another person, in service to the woman, but to really explore their own relationship to how they came into the world, how it's worked for them and against them, how it may have impacted their own birth experiences, and just, really flesh out and explore the relationship to birth and the powerful field that it is. In the Birth into Being world, we call it the birthing field.
Okay.
And it is the field of pure potential, where it might be about birthing a baby, it might be about birthing an artwork or a business or whatever. But there's this, the energy of creation is strong, and it brings stuff up, and it's this incredible field that it's really, really beautiful to be able to explore and uncover and see what your relationship to that is. And it definitely, I did Birth into Being stuff after having my babies,
Right.
and I definitely feel like the work that I did in kind of healing some of the wounds from my early childhood have allowed me to be a better mother. I was blessed with amazing birth experiences, like we said, but I still have lots of challenges as a mother. I'm still calling on every strength that I have. My children are now 14 and 12, and whether it be strength in dealing with them, whether it's picking up the phone to make that call to the principal, whether it's kind of having the ability to really check in with myself and see where are my boundaries around dealing with other parents, all the things that come up in a child's life, and the way that it's just this constantly changing and evolving thing. I had a lot of sadness in my early childhood and a lot of difficulty in my relating to my mother, and this work has just been brilliant for helping me to clear the path and really be the mama that I want to be. And it also helps me in my work,
So
not always easy to sit and do interviews like this. It's not easy to put yourself out there on Facebook. I'm sure all of the women in the hub will have experienced that anxiety of like, oh, can I do it? Can I do it? Can I press? Then, quick, turn everything off, right? And then come back later. Oh, okay, it's all right. I survived.
Yeah.
Somebody liked it. It's not easy to
put yourself out there. Yeah. With your passions.
Small. That's right. Staying small is much safer, but it's boring and it's not what we came here for. So this work has been brilliant for me in that regards, and I've watched over the years different people really step into themselves and really come out and shine, and not let those negative core beliefs or not let those kind of inhibiting patterns hold them back.
Right.
Learn to get to know them so that when you see them or they pop up, you can go, I know you.
Yeah. So it sounds like your work, your workshops are perfect for really, anyone at any stage of their life. But would you say for maybe the mums listening, or for those women who are looking or thinking about starting their family, would this work really benefit them before they fall pregnant, and to really kind of clear that, that
debris from the past?
Exactly. So for any women who are listening now, who are thinking about having a baby, or maybe you're in that process of starting to prepare, which it sometimes it sneaks up on you and these children will come in when they're ready, and that's okay too. But this is definitely something that I strongly recommend that you look at is looking to work with Nicole, going to a workshop. And you've also got online courses now, don't you?
I do, because so many people can't make it to the date that I get, and there's always a juggle of dates and venues and my own family commitments, and my partner is a musician, so I have to support his in his gigs and things. So I have moved it online. I'm doing a full week. I did it twice last year, and I'm gearing up to do round 3 April this year. And it's basically 4 live calls with supporting material that comes through the platform that I'm using. And on those 4 calls, we do process work and working with the imprint in different ways. And just like in a live workshop, I generally wait and see who's there and what is presenting before I decide exactly what processes we'll do, because everybody's different. Every group has its own unique magic, and the Birth into Being method has 20 odd processes to choose from. And I also do long format workshops, which is something that doesn't come up so often because there's very few of us that can actually have 10 days out of our lives. But the longest format workshop I have done is a 10-day, and it's actually a training to work with this method. The processes that we do are brilliant in a workshop scenario, but they're also brilliant in the birth space itself. So if a woman hasn't done her inner work and she is in birth and stuck, or there's, some of the processes you can, just straight in, straight to it. What's holding you back? Let's get right in there, look at it, meet it, and rise above it. And, it's amazing in labour, actually, to really, help a woman through transition.
Wow.
Birth, that's the other category that we haven't really touched on. That, when a woman's birth experience hasn't gone as she would like it to have, and she needs some healing around that. That's also one of the sort of subgroups of people that come to my workshops. And I have to say, seeing as we're in good company of birth practitioners and business women around birth, niching has been so hard for me because of the fact that this work is so good for so many different categories. And I'm trying really hard to be specific that, yes, it's spiritual preparation for preconception and couples approaching birth. Wow. So in answer to your question, is it good for preconception? Yes. Beautiful. It's fantastic, especially if someone has been, as you said in your story, exposed all their life to the idea that, I nearly killed my mother. If I hadn't been rescued at the last minute, it would have been catastrophic. Many children are told, you nearly killed me. It's another part of educating, so that, if we're unfortunate and we've had difficult stories, maybe our children don't need to know all the gory details. Maybe we can do our own inner work and heal that experience, so that then what we share with our children is, it was challenging, it was difficult, I overcame it, and in the months after your birth, I had to work on myself, I had to process it, and I am so glad you're with me. So that a mother can tell her babies how happy she is to receive them into the world, without carrying the pain of her experiences on through their life.
Wow. Well, I'm so blessed, and thank you so much for talking to me today. And I know and I hope that if we can spread this word and share, our own stories and why, this work is really important, not only for us as women, but for the future of our children, because that imprint, we will pass that on. So by doing the work, preparing yourself for your own children, I think it should be a priority for all women, but we need to know about it. I had no idea when I was pregnant that this kind of work was available. So I really want to thank you. For anyone that would like to learn more about the workshops Nicole holds or the online courses, they can go to www.birthintobeing.com.au, and I just want to thank you very much for your time today. So we'll leave it there, and we'll definitely speak soon. And I'd love to do another interview with you, because I know that you have so many different aspects as well. Even for you as a mother, I know that you did elimination communication. So I would love to actually chat to you about that as well one day. But for now, we'll leave it there. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for listening.